That's fine.
I felt that. I felt that. What's going on, good people? It's your guy, Dr. Ty. Welcome to Athletes or Scholars, where we invite you to consider another side of genius. And while we're at it, you might just got a glimpse of another side or the other side of Jesus. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to hang out with you one more time on this Adventism and Athletics series, this curation of a conversation amongst a group of people that love sport. We've established that, right? Our people love sport. I love sport. I actually happen to work in the sports space, though this conversation is not connected to my day job. I am a part of a community of Adventist leaders, thinkers, dads, and thought leaders who have taken up the mantle to say, hey, listen, like, what is God saying in this particular season of our journeys? Thinking about our own experiences as youth athletes. Some of us played at various levels, some higher than the others, but many of us navigating sport in a unique way. From those of you like myself who had the opportunity to play sport, may have been adjacent to the Adventist church, may have had the opportunity or been encouraged to play at school. Maybe you did go to an Adventist academy, maybe you didn't. There's a whole lot out there as it relates to the journeys of the people. And we're just excited to be able to have a conversation to engage folks' journeys, but also to think about from a theological perspective, from a cultural perspective, from an epistemological perspective. Long word, it simply means like our ways of knowing, like how did we come to know what we think we know about sport and our engagement or lack thereof in it. So I'm grateful to be able to hang out with you. We've had some amazing guests, Shane Simmons and my guys from Adventist Hoops. And as well as last week or whatever you watched it, hopefully you've caught the episode with Myron Edmonds, Dr. Myron Edmonds. And we're grateful for all who have contributed. And listen, we're not just talking. I've also written about this. I've taken the time to write a 6-part series in Spectrum magazine. Shout out to Spectrum for publishing all 6 of the articles. We're now in the process of, you should be able to read episode 5 or article 5. And this conversation will buttress that and help to wrap our arms around some of that content with somebody I'm excited to spend some time with. Listen, man, I must be honest with you. When I think about my journey in and around sport, particularly as an alum of Oakwood University in Huntsville, Alabama, I played soccer there. And there was a young point guard, you know what I'm saying? There was a young point guard who, when we were playing and when we were attending basketball games, there was an excitement that we had someone who actually played D1 basketball and then came to Oakwood a few years younger than me, but he was there and we were excited about his presence. I am still excited about his presence, man. I want to make sure that we could show some love to my guy. But before we do that, do me a favor. This is a good time to subscribe. This is a good time to, to pass this link on, share with somebody. Let's make sure that we get this conversation popping all across our communities. Because there are a number of young people who need to know that there is options. They need to know that Christ loves them and gave them the gift of athletics, gave them the gift of athleticism. And so we're excited to be able to hang out with you. Do us a favor, share this, and we'll make sure that we'll make it worth your time. I'm excited to have a point guard with us tonight. Listen, you should know, is not just a former hooper, but he's also the regional director of Boys and Girls Club of North Alabama. He's a men's ministry leader, the men's ministry leader at Oakwood University Church, anger management counselor, and Aspire Counseling and Consulting CEO. Super excited. Listen, this will be the time where you cue up the music for the point guard to come to the stage, make his way out onto the court. Let's put our hands together, give some love in the chat to my guy, Adrian Hargrove, future Dr. Adrian Hargrove. Yeah. What's going on, my brother? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, let's go.
Come on, man. Did I tee you up right? Did I give you an alley right?
What's up?
Man, it's good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. My brother from another mother.
Yes, sir. But the same father. You know what I mean?
Hey, I saw mom the other day, man, to tell her what's up.
I love that. Well, man, first, we got to start here. Happy belated birthday. I'm not going to put it out there how old you is, but I want to make sure that the people know. He let you know. You know what I mean?
It's all good. It's all
right.
Good.
And I think he even ran like 44 miles as well. Come on.
I did, right? 4 miles from March 1st to March 26th.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with his work, he's also someone that regularly puts out some Monday momentum, right? Yeah. To encourage the people. So we have with us a scholar, a thought leader, a man of conscience, a man who is seeking to live honestly and with integrity and with intentionality. And also a man that learned many of those skills, I imagine, as an athlete who chose, to be able to use that gift in ways that perhaps, at least from the generation that we were part of, was somewhat unprecedented. So first of all, I just want to just celebrate you. I want to make sure you know that I value you, I respect you, I appreciate you and your witness. And I imagine that even my thoughts around what was possible in sport are not disconnected from the fact that when we were, seeing you, and many of us in Huntsville, and seeing you come through, there was like a reality that, hey, like, man, we got a brother who went, who did this thing and played D1 basketball. So real quick, I know I've given a little bit about who you are, but what should folks know about who Adrian Hargrove is currently, and then perhaps connect the dots as relates to like what comes to mind when you think about sport and your love for it?
Oh man, for me, what's the thing? Ball is life. Basketball was and is my dream, man. I still be trying to get out there now. It's just everything is in slow motion.
Okay.
It's like, your mind say do something and your body's like, nah, bro. Like, we're not doing that. But Adrian Hargrove, I'm the one of the regional directors at the Boys and Girls Club of North Alabama. And so myself and another regional director, we split. We have 15 club sites across North Alabama. And I like to say, man, I never work a day of my life. It's a pleasure and it's an honor, to just serve the youth in our organization and to serve my community. I was blessed to get the opportunity to serve as men's ministry leader at Oakwood. And so something I've really been striving to do with that, along with so many other powerful men in the community, is just bridging those gaps between the church and our community, and just, letting brothers know that, hey, we're all in this together. It's all about collaborating over competing, and just having compassion for each other, so that we can be better, men of God, which means we can be better for our communities. And
that's good.
Management. Shout out to Choya Wise. That's another one of my big bros. That's his company. And then he gave me an opportunity to come in and facilitate a class once a week. And it's just been a blessing, man. So God has just been ordering my steps all over the place, man. And I'm just honored and blessed to be able to serve.
I love that. Something that comes to my mind, even just listening to you, and I hope this would encourage young athletes who will see this podcast and parents or hear this podcast, is the reality that as athletes, and we talk about it, come on, it's the movement, athletes are scholars, right?
I gotta order me.
Yep, absolutely, man. And make sure, folks, if you want to get some of this merch, man, make sure you let us know in the chat. We'll make sure we get this to you. Shout out to our Oakwood volleyball team. They've used it as a warm-up shirt, and I'm saying, love to Dr. Wayne Bachner and his team. Yeah. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about the reality that, like, you have you live a multi-hyphenate life, right? Like you're an academic working on your doctorate, right? You're a business owner, you're a counselor, you're leading a men's ministry, and many of those sort of commitments and the discipline that you have, I imagine, is not, again, separate from your sport journey. It's crazy. I just saw a commercial from my guy Jalen Brown. Of course, seeing the intro to the show, man, I'm thinking JB is balling. You know what I'm saying? So we got a little chat with some of him and another, what we call the Chocolate Brothers, man. That's my chocolate brother. But I'm glad to have another chocolate brother on when I see you. You know what I'm saying?
Throw me in there.
But man, my chocolate brother is doing his thing, but to hopefully win that MVP in the league. But it also, again, makes me think about the beauty of when an athlete understands their genius. And that's what these conversations are about. It's about understanding your genius, and it's also about understanding your gift in athletics. And that athletic gift is actually an academic reality as well. Like, to be a great hooper or soccer player or swimmer, whatever it is, there's mathematics and physics and science incorporated into being excellent. And also understanding that you are a gift, right? The athletes need to understand that you are a gift. You're a gift from God, and God has given you the gift. And so it's an opportunity, even as you engage in sport, to worship, to give that gift back to him, right? So I want to make sure that we're also connecting the dots for folks who may not have seen previous episodes or read the entire Spectrum, articles series. But there's space for you to express yourself athletically, academically, and I would like to suggest that those actually overlap. But it's also okay to have a little swag, a little drip, right? To have your brother's got his suit, you know what I mean? Like, you can, he's got the smooth grave, you know what I'm saying? Like all the pieces can come together. You can be, you know what I'm saying, 20 and 10. You can be triple double, or like, oh girl, for the Notre Dame today, you know what I'm saying, almost quadruple double. You saw Hannah Hidalgo doing her thing?
Mercy.
Right?
Mercy.
So I want to invite folks and parents and administrators to think about, what does it look like to do quadruple double? In other words, you can enjoy sport. Yes, you just need to exercise and be healthy, but we can also engage. And I love what you said, collaboration. And you said over competition as relates to how we engage with men, but there's also something powerful about being able to compete in a healthy way. Talk to me about your journey as a young basketball player. You know, I'm thinking 80s for you, right? Early 90s, but 80s, 90s, where like, I know, you know, I was born and raised in Bermuda. I didn't go to the Adventist school in Bermuda, but I know, like in Bermuda, the Adventist school, they didn't get to play against other schools. Right. I believe you got to play against other schools when you were at Oakwood Adventist Academy, I believe. But also give us like a little bit of the runway before that. Like, how did you end up being a really good hooper? And I want to talk to the people where you're telling them where you ended up, but like, talk to us about the young AH. Yeah. How did you develop as a basketball player, and then did it lead also to opportunities to play against other schools in middle school and high school?
I would say, you know, the early beginnings was, you know, in the backyard, you know, on the goal on the side of grandma's house, on the peach, not the peach basket, but the milk crate nailed to the tree.
Come on.
You know, the clothes hanger.
Yeah.
With the sock, you know, and, you know, as I got older, man, just playing against older guys.
Yeah.
I had an older cousin, you know, my cousin Orlando, he's like 2 years older than me. So he used to dog me out, you know, playing against my dad, you know, dad just dogging me out.
Yeah.
And then, you know, as I got older, playing, you know, at the academy, or not, I wouldn't say at the academy yet, at the, when I was in the middle school, you know, the guys like Norton Webb, Demetro Miles, you know, those guys were all a couple years ahead of me.
Yeah.
So, you know, competing against those guys, you know, you want to prove yourself. And so those early bumps and bruises, you know, playing against the men and the older guys really kind of started setting that foundation for me. And having a really tough and focused mindset. I'll never forget, you know, there's pivotal points in your life where things happen that really stand out in both sport and life. And one in particular for me was I was playing with my Uncle William.
Okay.
And I'll never forget, he would let me drive past him, but he kept telling me I couldn't shoot. And so now, and I, you know, I might need to ask him, was it intentional or was it just something he was doing that day? But he kept saying, you can't shoot, you can't shoot. So I'm starting to try to shoot further and further. Wherever he would tell me I couldn't shoot from, I'm trying to show him I can shoot from there. And I kept missing. But when I would drive past him, I always scored. And so the whole time we might as, you know, played for about an hour, and I never beat him. And so we were walking back. This was a court down the street from my grandmother's house. And he kept asking me if I understood what happened. And I was just like, you know, I was just missing my shots. You know, I gotta work on my shot. And he was just like, oh, do you understand what took place today? And I was maybe 12, between 11, 12, 13, somewhere in there. And I just kept missing my shot. And he said, you allowed me to talk you out your game. And I'm like, well, no, you didn't. You know, like I was just missing. He was just like, when did you score? And so I thought about, when I was driving past you, you know, he's like, so why did you stop? Well, you told me I can shoot. So I got, you know, you're not going to tell me I can't shoot.
Yeah.
And as he explained it to me, he was just like, you do what works. Whatever's working.
That's good.
Don't let somebody tell you something else. Now, there is something to take on a challenge. Yeah.
Come on. Yeah.
He's like, in a game, he's like, especially, you know, if you're doing something that's working, you keep doing it until they stop it.
Man, if this is at Oakwood University Church, that'd be one of the, you know, say point number one. You know, say Pastor Snell would have clapped his hands. You know,
you need 6 or 7 people to.
Yes, sir. Keep doing what works. If it's working, you know what I mean. Keep doing it, right? I mean, I think that's a principle not just in sport, but in life and other areas, right? If it's working, keep doing it. And there's also something to developing other aspects of your game. So you may need a jumper. you probably do need a jumper as well, right? So okay, so took some hard knocks. You mentioned some of the brothers in school, guys who were a little bit older than you. You mentioned Nordy and the boys. I mean, I remember Nordy was like a full-grown man just seeing you guys when you came to Oakwood, but like you in high school. But guys, what I'm saying, he could jump out the building, right? So you were surrounded by a cohort of young hoopers who were also Adventist young brothers, right?
Yes, sir.
And so tell us about what it was like at the academy as a basketball player, right? Like, how did being at Oakwood Adventist Academy impact you in your basketball journey, right? And then obviously it led you to actually getting a D1 offer. So like, help us to connect those dots. So I want to make sure people understand this is a brother who, he knows what haystacks are. You know what I'm saying? He's got a fry pan, of you know what I'm saying? A stripple or two, and came through the Adventist system and got a D1 offer. So like, connect the dots, because they were about to just turn it off and say, okay, I'm good. Whatever, these guys just talking. But like, you actually did the thing through a process or a pathway that maybe hasn't been the same for many. Connect those dots for us.
Oh man, getting to the academy was everything. As we grew up, again, in that Oakwood community, the Mustangs, that was our Oak Hill, Oak Hill and all those schools. And so I really looked up to those guys, Hank Bryant, Jerome Miles, Demetrio Miles, Adrian Epps, rest in peace. Some other guys. Eric Peters was another. Eric and Greg, Johnny Robb. Of course, the guards were my guys. So anybody that was a guard, and even those that didn't go to the because Dr. Myron Edmonds.
Could he really hoop? Because I asked it on the previous episode, and his answer was, "Listen, man, I'm not gonna brag. You know what I'm saying? I'll let other people tell my story." He had the sauce.
Myron was a dog.
All right, Bob. We see. All right, man. Okay, I'm gonna stop teasing you, brother. They tell you. So that's why Cam's got the sauce too. You know what I'm saying? I love that. All right, cool.
But we were like a family, man. Those guys were like my big brothers. And then we were blessed to have coaches who were father figures. My dad is my best friend, but Coach Douglas, Coach Epps, Mr. Miles, Mr. Webb. We had coaches that treated us like their sons.
Okay.
On the court, off the court, life, basketball, everything. And we just spent so much time together.
Yeah.
And so getting to the academy and having the opportunity to play with those guys, my freshman year, I was the only freshman that made the varsity. Norton Webb was the only sophomore. And then, we had all the juniors and seniors. But in regards to playing other schools, the way it's set up now where, Oakwood Academy is 1A and they play, we weren't able to do that because we didn't have our own gym. And so we were kind of like a AAU team because we traveled almost every weekend. We would go play FH Jenkins, or we go play GAAA or some of the other schools. So a lot of our games, we traveled to play some of the other SDA schools.
Okay.
And, we played Oakwood intramurals.
Okay. So, but you didn't play against other schools that weren't Adventist, yeah? You played just Adventist schools at the time?
We didn't, no.
Okay.
Now I'll say during the summers we did.
Okay.
So during the summers they had the city summer leagues.
Yeah. That
were at the city rec gyms, and so we were able to kind of get against them during that time, and then also our city hoops during the week, just open runs. We bring our crew. Butler High School would bring their crew, Johnson, and we go to the different gyms, and so we got to see how we matched up against those guys that we had to read about in the newspaper.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like there was this sort of ecosystem of school basketball. I talk about the power of exposure in a lot of my work, and so there was some exposure to same age peers, but also playing against other Adventist talent. What was the talent like in the other schools? I know you mentioned Myron, who was at Pine Forge, but like, were there other hoopers at some of those other schools, Adventist Jenkins and the other places? Yeah.
I got to give a shout out to Lamont Perry. Man, Lamont Perry at Pine Forge. I will never forget when we went up there and they had the smoke coming out the thing, and their team came out the curtains, and it was they had the eagle, the big hologram up on the thing.
Okay. Yeah, and he bought at Oakwood too. He did his thing. I think Lamont came to Oakwood and did his thing as well. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So he was like, yeah.
That was one of the guys I looked at like, Lamont, another guy named Mike that was at GAAA. He also passed. Rest in peace, Mike. Those are two guys I remember. Robert and Mel from they were from Texas. Oh, I forgot I want to say FH Jenkins. Was FH Jenkins in Texas? But we saw them at the Southwest tournament.
Okay. All right.
Well, yes. Shout out to Robert and Mel Johnson.
Yeah.
Man, it was so many other guys.
Okay.
I remember Sully. I remember him.
Sully's been on the show, and obviously Sully's from Bermuda. Obviously been to play professionally as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a guy named
yeah. So I mean, so it sounds like there was a rich like community nationally of Adventist hoopers who one way or the other found the opportunities to be able to develop, even though they weren't getting a chance to play on Sabbaths. Many of them I imagine at that time. Let's have that conversation. Before we do that, let's make sure we could also show the image of my guy when he was at Oakwood. We got at least one picture, you know what I'm saying, of you. And so I know this was pre, cameras and the like, and it sounds like the VHS tapes. You look like you might.
I was on the way up.
You way up? Because that looks like, I don't know if you want to get above the rim.
I squeeze him in. I was able to squeeze him in.
Now, how tall are you? For the people who don't know, how tall are you? Because I mean,
I'm 5'9" with my shoes on.
5'9". So for you to be able to get up, you had some hops, man. For you to be able to do your thing.
Get up a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. When was the last time you dunked? Was that about 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Let's see, 44. That was about 20 years ago. That was about 20 years ago.
Listen, that's funny. I love it. So obviously we don't have a whole lot of footage. Apparently the VHS tapes got disposed of, man.
Man,
we have to believe the stories. You know what I'm saying? I love that. So tell us about the opportunity to get the scholarship to Alabama A&M University. So D1 scholarship comes. Give us some context for how that happened.
God, man, God, and I'll say this because it's something that I've taken my entire life, and that is asking God to put you where He wants you to be.
Yeah,
and so I've just taken on that motto, and so what it was going to the academy. My family. My parents are SDA, but the families are not.
Okay.
And so, family would be like, oh, he's not going to get any opportunities, because he's at this, nobody's going to see him at Oakwood Academy.
Right.
There was a men's league at Oakwood that took place during the summer. And I was a gym rat, so junior year in high school, that summer, I was always at the gym. And so I would go up there and I was always trying to get on somebody's team, like, hey, you need somebody. Yeah. So I had gone to the thrift store and man, I would shop around and I had a reversible jersey in every color possible, just in case somebody needed one. And one day, this guy, Emmanuel, I don't even know his last name, but he needed one. He had 4, they was going to forfeit and they needed a player. And so he was just like, man, come on. And it just so happened we were playing against an alumni team from Alabama A&M.
Come on.
And so, when you stay ready, you don't got to get ready.
Stay ready. Listen, I just wrote down on my notes, stay ready. Stay ready.
And so I played. I had a good game. And during the game, the assistant coach at the time, Coach Willie Hayes, We were just talking. He's just like, man, I know you kind of young looking. Like I never seen you before around. And he's like, where you from here? And I was like, yeah. I'm here. And he's like, when did you graduate? Where'd you go to school? And I was like, oh, I'm a junior at Oakwood Academy. And he was like, in high school? And I was like, yeah. And so he was just like, we got to talk. And so after the game, he got my information, and that's how my recruitment started. He came, talked to my parents. And he said, hey man, I want you to come be a Bulldog. And we had the conversation about the Sabbath. He said, the bulk of our games were Saturday night, Tuesdays, and I want to say Thursdays.
There
were a few, but he was just like, you don't have to practice on Friday, Saturday games, don't worry about it. And so God blessed, man.
So your gifts made room for you. And just to be clear, I mean, you know how much you scored. You didn't just have a good game. You went off on them. How many points you scored in that game?
It was about a smooth 36.
Come on, a smooth 36.
Some numbers you just remember vaguely, but yeah.
Right. So I mean, your gifts made room for you. When I think about even principles from our conversation so far, you talked about working with your uncle and him sort of getting you off your game, trying to get you to shift your approach. I feel like you could make some application that in multiple ways, where it's just like you're doing something that's working, something's working for you, but then you shift because someone just tries to do some mind games on you, right? Continue to do what's working for you, but also you talked about the power of engaging community, right? If you're the guys that you played at school, in your community, your neighborhood, et cetera, at church league, right? Stay ready. You went and bought jerseys from the thrift store. So whatever team needed you, right?
I had a jersey.
You had a jersey. You know what I mean? Right. So the opportunity, folks talk about, preparing for an opportunity of a lifetime, the lifetime of the opportunity. Like there were things that you did specifically that prepared you. And I also I know we have a brother in common in Jeremy Anderson, who you talked about. You were one of the first next levelers.
I am the first next level. I don't know if you want to call it member or whatever, because it might have been that same year, my junior year. Jeremy was a senior.
Yeah.
When A&M thing happened, I remember telling Jeremy, I want to play Division I basketball.
Wow.
Jeremy was just like, bet, meet me at the gym. And we were at the gym because we both worked at the physical plant on Oakwood campus. So I met Jeremy at the gym. I want to say it was like 5:30, 5 in the morning.
I love that.
Gym. Jeremy got chairs set up. He had two chairs with the broomstick across. I had to jump. He had me running this obstacle course, jumping over broomsticks. And man,
I need the footage, man. I appreciate the footage. And look, good to see Jeremy with some hair in his head. You know what I'm saying? But what I love, the fade. You know what I'm saying? JAF the fade. But what I love about this, bro, is this. Like, people just think that like leaders and influencers and folks who are making moves in life, like it just started yesterday.
Like, dude.
Somebody who's watching this is a young person. I need you to know that I tell people when I speak, I tell for listen, the things that you're called to do on a great level, on a big level, you've already done on a small level. Like there are like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's stuff in you that from a young age you've done it, and you just do it because of calling, because of gifting, because of like it's just something different about you, right? Like nobody told Jeremy to do that, you know what I mean? And so I love that the intersection between him and you, right? And to see where you are now, where he is now, and just the continued development in those same lanes in many ways, right? That's amazing to me. Okay, so Alabama A&M comes, you get the offer, you meet the coach. Some people, they'll call it serendipity. We'll call it favor. God ordered your steps, right? So it is possible. We've talked about this in other episodes to get a D1 opportunity, right? Your gifts can make room for you. And there's even accommodations that could be made for athletes who observe Sabbath, who choose not to play on Sabbath. I do want to just put this out there. I know many folks here right now, man, the day has died in the West for many folks who may be watching this, right? And Sabbath has come. And I know growing up for you, I imagine, the TV and the NCAA playoffs were turned off probably a good hour before the Sabbath, right? You got to keep that hour before the Sabbath.
Mom shut it down.
You shut it down.
My mom was one of those, we prepped for the Sabbath Thursday.
Yes, sir.
So it's like when Sabbath came, you bringing in the sun. I felt like she was pulling the sun down.
Just put the sun down.
Yeah, my mom didn't play, man. Yes,
Day is dying in the west.
We shut it down.
Yeah. Well, hopefully somebody who maybe has turned off the TV, if that's their preference and feel inclined, can at least get something from this conversation that continues to enrich at the intersection of engagement in sport, but also thinking about it holistically, right? And ways that transcend not just an NCAA tournament, but the reality that I believe that we're called to also be so and light in athletic spaces, right? And so I love that you've walked this path, but you didn't just get to Alabama A&M. I think from your path, and we just begin to mine what you experienced in the space. I know you weren't at Alabama A&M very long,
right.
And we can talk about that. But I also know that in the short time you were there were moments where you got to share your faith in particular ways, even around how you observed Sabbath. So let's talk about that a little bit. I know you talked about having a roommate who was on the team, right? And a particular Friday night experience. Talk to us about that. Again, I want people to understand that some things you don't get to see certain things until you're in the space. Mm-hmm. You were in the space. Yeah. Tell us about what you saw having been in the space that could be helpful to those who are trying to understand whether God could use them in the space of athletics.
Oh yeah. So we were playing, we had a road trip. I think we went to play Mississippi State and Wright State in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And so we left, of course, out then we're leaving early. It's not no day of trips. You get there a day or so before the game. And so the game was Saturday night, but we left, I want to say Thursday. And so we get in the hotel Thursday. So now Friday comes. We're in the hotel room, everybody's in their rooms. It's Friday night now. And so I'm roomed with the senior starting shooting guard, Steve Ward, and so again, I'm this freshman from Oakwood Academy. So I'm looking at this guy like, man, this is Steve Ward. He's the man. And so we're in the room, everybody showered, so we kind of settled in, and he turned the TV on, because college basketball is going on. So I'm sitting there like, man, I'm the young guy. So I can't tell him to turn the TV off because it's my Sabbath. And so, I just took out my Bible. I prayed. I was like, all right, God, help me be strong, because I kind of want to watch the game too. But, and so I sat there and I just kind of started reading. And I was just reading Proverbs. My dad would always just be like, hey, read Proverbs, each month. I think it's 31,
yeah.
30.
Yeah.
So I'm reading. Yeah. And so I remember Steve, he kind of looked over at me. And he was like, oh, man, my bad. And he turned the TV off. He was just like, what you reading? And so I was just like, oh, just Proverbs, man. My dad always. And so I kind of told him, about my dad. And he's just like, oh, okay. Well, what's it talking about? And so I was kind of just read what it was talking about and, what it meant to me. And he was just like, yeah, man. He's like, I've read the Bible a little bit and, went to church with. And so it ended up, we just started having a conversation about, the Bible and different belief systems. And he's just, well, tell me about Seventh-day Adventists. Like, what do y'all believe? I know this person that was Seventh-day Adventist. Oh, I'm Baptist, and I mean, we just ended up just sitting up, just having a conversation. And it wasn't, I don't want to say like, it was like a deep Bible study or it was just two guys talking, about their experiences. Yeah. What God has done for them in our lives. And man, I was just so thankful because it was an awkward situation for me. But when I stayed true to who I was, and I stayed true to what I believed, then in a crazy way, I was the leader in the room. And it's like, you would have thought, oh, you're a freshman, you're going to follow the lead of this senior. But it turned out to be the other way. He followed my lead. He said, okay, I see the example that you're setting. Yeah. This means something to you. Yeah. And also I'm like, I had to be consistent. If I'm going to be given the Sabbath off, then I can't sit in here on Friday night just watching the game like it's all good. Because then it's like, well, if you can do that, why can't you practice on Fridays? If you can do that, you might as well do everything else. And so it's like, if you're going to stand up for it, stand up for it.
Interesting. Yeah. Powerful. Yeah. I mean, I love what you shared. I mean, the brother reaches out to you and says, man, what are you reading? Right. Yeah. Powerful. It reminds me again in the article series that I've written in Spectrum, one of the principles or realities or concepts that I believe we talk about is also the impact of proximity, right? Like just when you're proximate to folks, there are conversations that you can have that, especially when you're in a relationship, that you just can't have if you don't have those relationships. And I wonder, like, what have we missed out on by not being proximate in particular ways to folks in the sports space? I recently attended a baseball game with my son with those Yankees Giants, and you're seeing like, I'm realizing like there are whole traditions that folks have about like the first home game or opening game or right. And like, and so, in Article 5 that folks, feel free to, I'd love for you to tap in and read that. We'll drop in the chat for you as well. And make sure you follow us in Substack and other spaces that you can get access to more content. One of these we also talk about is the importance of being in the spaces and engaging. But I also caution us, like, not to do like the traditional, I'm not going to paint with a broad brush, but I'm going to just say, let's not be maybe at the game and you're just sort of handing out tracks to people that you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what I'm suggesting. I'm not saying that's not the play. You know what I'm saying? Let's not run that play, right? But I do think that there are ways that you could be in the space to love on people. And I'm not saying that there may be a context where somebody may ask you for something, whatever, whatever. But it seems like it's our tendency that, like, as a people, like the only play we know is sort of like just to, what I'm saying, and without the context of relationship, which is why I think that we have to think about engagement in sports systematically and systemically so that we lead with relationship. And then some of the other pieces that we may want to share that we will believe are revelatory about all the things that we often prioritize in our faith structure. It all comes back to love for people, love for God, love for people, right? And so I think there's something there.
Yeah. I was just going to say the example you set is the foundation.
Yeah.
Because in spaces, where I was, playing in leagues out in Cali and LA and Compton and overseas, everywhere, the thing that would come off the most is they'd be like, man, you kind of different. It wasn't me talking about God it was like, we notice you don't really cuss a whole lot.
Yeah.
One might slip if I miss too many shots, but
right.
For the most part, you're not cussing. You're not really getting angry like you want to fight every other play. It's like they noticed there was something different.
Sure.
And so I think to your point, we don't necessarily have to give them anything like in their hand tangible, but the example that we give them is what'll be that first thing that makes them say, something's different about you.
Yeah.
And then they might ask, what do you believe? You go to church, or why don't you curse?
Sure.
Why don't you fight? Why didn't you, respond in a way that typically someone would respond? And that's I don't believe that.
That's good. Yeah. As we begin to transition to a close, I want to sort of circle back to something we talked about in pre-production. And I love what you said. You mentioned, you talked about creating alternatives, that Jesus wasn't about don't do this. He was often about do this. You talked a lot about a lot of times we, in our context, there's a lot of don't do this. But I think what I heard you say was the importance of modeling what Christ said was, he did give some clear directives on like what to do, right? Like, to love people, or just alternatives as relates to, how to engage, right? Like, what must I do, to be safe? Like there was directives of like what to do. And a lot of times it was somewhat almost countercultural to the establishment and to the Pharisaical mindset of the religious folks. And so I guess if I was to sort of reapply that same principle back to you and to ask, what are some alternatives that you see as relates to the way forward? What comes to mind? I do broach some of these in Article 5 that I'm happy to share after, but I will have to tee you up and ask you, like, if you were the commissioner of Adventist sports, or or an AAU structure, or I'm not even gonna say that. How would you steward the next generation that is Adrian Hargrove? How would you steward Adrian Hargrove Jr.?
Oh man, the movement has already started, bro.
Yeah.
My brother, Dustin,
Adventist Hoops,
Adventist Hoops. I so I after I left A&M, went to Oakwood, played at Oakwood for a minute, and then I went out to PUC.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, I met one of the coldest, I call him white chocolate brothers out there at PUC. Dustin Calm was one of the smoothest and wouldn't break a sweat.
Wow. Now I didn't get any, maybe when he was doing, I didn't ask him for any pics or anything. We need some footage. And just so you said that are you saying that you went to PUC, you actually played at PUC?
Played at
so
PUC.
Did you graduate from PUC?
I graduated from PUC.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Hey, Dustin Calm was that.
Wow. Okay.
That guy. And so Dustin has created the Adventist hoop scene, the Adventist Hoops All-Star Weekend. And I think that's the answer.
Yeah.
It's, okay, we don't have AAU tournaments. We don't have all this stuff because it's all on Sabbath. It's all on Sabbath. It's all on Sabbath. So it's like build our own.
Yeah.
And I went out there and I was able to witness what he's put together last summer out at Loma Linda La Sierra. And it was just beautiful.
So I imagine, could it be cool in the future if I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just saying in the future, wouldn't it be powerful if, recruiters and folks from many different walks of life are coming because there's this nucleus of gifted athletes, right? That's amazing. I didn't mean to cut you off. You were saying, sorry.
No, I was just saying exactly what you said. He's started something special.
Yeah.
And what I see as it grows and continues to grow, that there might be multiple, summer things where it's like they'll have the East Coast one and maybe the West Coast one, or the sky's the limit. But the same goes for the AAU circuits and the travel ball, and I think it's just a blessing now. I'm just so excited for my guys at Oakwood Academy to be able to play in a league now.
To
be able to play for the state championship and be able to do those things. I know they ran into some hiccups a couple years ago, but we got to start somewhere. We didn't have that opportunity, but those bricks are being laid to continue to build.
And I'm going to be a little bit of a troublemaker because I know you also said off camera, man, you come and see these current guys playing. Word on the street is that you and your generation, you think that you're better than them. I just want to put that out there. I want Jade and Williams and my guys. I want them to be offended. You know what I'm saying? I want my guys who've been on. I want to be an instigator. I want to tee up, some type of game between you all. Although, of course, it's 20 years too late. But word on the street is the OGs think they're better than you old young bucks.
They can't see me now.
Okay, I love it. It might need to be an alumni weekend, something. You know what I'm saying?
I'm gonna need some ice though. I'm gonna need some ice and icy hot. But they can't see.
I love it. Well, listen, some of the things that I talk about in Article 5 that I think would be appropriate for us to begin to consider as we land the plane today is just some recommendations. One being the need to build athletics into our evangelistic efforts, right? Particularly when we think about reaching young brothers, people of color, Black and brown folks in particular, like hoops, basketball, sport more broadly is a language, and we want to make sure we understand this is a international conversation. So basketball isn't the sport for everybody. Where I'm from, Bermuda, football, soccer really is. I'm gonna say soccer, but we call it football. The rest of the world does, right? Whatever the language is, right, for the people, right? You may go to Cuba, it's gonna be baseball, right? So, thinking about how do you build in athletics into your evangelistic efforts, right? Building relationships with pro teams in your area, right? And collegiate athletic programs. There are formal opportunities to be chaplains in those spaces, and thinking about how you can show love to the people in ways that make sense to the people. And then shifting the approach, right? I sort of alluded to it already. It's like moving from sticking handbills on people's doors and in their hands without relationship, but instead finding ways to be proximate and to show love to the people, right? I recommend it. I was in Bermuda during the World Cup campaign last year. One of the recommendations I suggested was, hey, look, why don't every church or region take up one of the entrances so that you can walk some of the older folks to the game or walk them to their car after the game. Right. You know what I'm saying? Or the weather is going to be a little rainy. Get your umbrella out, get your deacons out, and help guide the traffic. But just thinking about like, how do you be proximate to the people, the whole island, the whole city, for example, wherever you are, is caring about something. Mm-hmm. How do you show that you care about them, right? Yeah. And then invest in our facilities. I think we need to develop a comprehensive strategic plan, right? That would be considerate of the possibility that if Christ was not to come for another 20 years, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. That between now and then, we would be more proximate to the power of sport as a legitimate space of ministry and mission and expression and worship, right? So I want to make sure that, we encourage folks to listen, to learn. And certainly I think we've listened and learned a lot from you tonight, my brother. And I look forward to the continued engagement that hopefully will come from this series. My mission is far greater than or beyond the Adventist context, right? This conversation is really about being inspirational, right? Intergenerational, and being intentional about inciting a movement. But for me, the Athletes or Scholars conversation is bigger than Adventism, right? It's about athletes and people knowing their genius, and genius comes from the Lord, but also understanding that, like, even just for those who aren't people of faith, that there is something powerful about how God has gifted you if you're an athlete that is no less academic than the traditional engineer or the mathematician. And so I hope that folks can find space for belonging and knowing that you are valued somewhere in that continuum. You know what I mean? And then, of course, specifically, I do have love for our church community, for the people, because I saw the power of sport. I did not experience some of the same oppressive sort of parental expectations or lack of opportunity. But I did experience some of the limitations because of a lack of exposure to consistent competition, because I chose not to play on most Sabbaths, right? So I want to just make sure that folks know that this is not a conversation series where we're trying to tell you what to believe. We're inviting you to consider what is God saying and doing in this season of your life, in our world's history, but also in individual journeys of folks who have walked before you and have had to come to some conclusions. So with that, my brother, conclusions. What could have been, should have been maybe different for you? Because also you mentioned not staying at Alabama A&M for very long, transition to Oakwood. I know it's a big adjustment. Like, as you close tonight in the final word, like, give us that a little bit of that context for the transition from Alabama A&M, but also, like, what have you mined from your experience that now you looking back, you would say, hey, a young person, a parent could learn from that based on my reflections and my journey?
Oh, man. I think going to A&M, I did have a little imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Because you've been told so much and so often that it was something that couldn't be accomplished.
Right.
And so I think when I got there, it was, somewhat of a culture shock, one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it was the fear of, let me just go back where it's comfortable, what I know, where it's safe. And so I think as we prepare our young athletes through sport or anything else, is for them not to fear the world. I think growing up, we were so sheltered in our SDA bubble that everything out there was just bad. Right. Guy, it's dark. It's hard. You don't want to be out there in darkness. However, yes, that's true. But God has assigned us to be light into the world. So what's the point in having light if you're not going to go out into the darkness and share it?
That's good.
And so I think instead of trying to shelter, what did it say? Hide it under a bushel. No, we should do that.
I'm gonna let it shine
to our young people. It's like, let's say, hey, let's give them the confidence to go out there and to sit in a room, in a hotel room with a starting senior and read the Bible and be okay with it.
Sure.
And so you can say, you know what, I'm gonna turn that TV off and I'm gonna have a conversation with you because I think they crave it.
Yeah.
How, like you said, how it's presented makes a difference. And if I could share a quick story that was shared with me, I remember hearing a story of missionaries. They were going to this remote village, maybe the Amazon or something like that, and they were trying to go witness. But each time they would send a group of missionaries, they would get run off. The people would run them off. they would come, they're trying to witness to them, and they would run them off, and it was just always a problem. And so it was like, no, it's dangerous. Don't go there. And a group of college students went. And when the college students got there, they noticed there was no water system to have to get the water from the water source, the river, lake, whatever it was, to the village. And so when they got there, the first thing they did was built the water system.
Yeah. That's right.
And so the villagers was like, well, why did you help us? And they're like, hey, that's what we do. You know, God has sent us. You know, we want to go out. We just want to help.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, tell us more about this God that you all serve.
Come on.
And the result was that village was converted. Not because they brought them tracts, you know, like you said, not because they came to beat them over the head with the Bible, but they said, hey, what do you need?
Yeah.
How can I serve you?
Sure.
And I feel like what I would challenge our communities in our IRC, open up your gyms. If you have a gym, open that gym up once a week to the community. Get those young people in there. Sure, you can come in and say, hey, before we play, everybody circle up. We're going to pray. We're going to take prayer requests or whatever.
Sure.
Have a 5-minute word. Hey, you know, God is good, man. Whatever you're going through, God's got you. Now let's play. Set your rules. Hey, no cursing, no fighting, such and such and such. If there's an issue, we're going to talk it out. You know, so I'm not saying let people come in there. Hey, no smoking. When I open gyms here, hey, no fighting, no smoking, no guns, none of that.
Yeah.
Issue, I'll shut it down.
Sure.
And guys respect that. And a lot of people, they want a safe space to come to and just hoop without drama. So I would say that, man, to our schools, to our churches, if you got facilities, you know, open them up and invite people in and meet that need.
I love that. I want to make sure that I could tee you up a prayer, but you're a point guard, but I'll be a bad teammate if I didn't just invite you to make sure you tell us where folks could find you. But also, man, you got some new books that are dropping, right? I also know you got a counseling practice where you also navigate or help folks to navigate like anger management. Like, so there's a young person they watch to the end. And so like reward them with how to find you. And maybe just one principle. If there's a parent who's watching, it's like, man, my son, my daughter, like they struggle with like managing anger, right? Like what should I know from your experience that could help them even to manage and maybe use sport perhaps as a way to manage and support their young person? Give us a little bit of counsel from your professional experience, your insights in that regard, and then tell the people how they can find you.
One thing I always say is anger is just an emotion, just like anything else. And so it's more about how we respond than not getting angry. So, you know, that's one of the first principles I say in my class. It's like getting angry is not the issue. It's what you do when you're angry. And so we learn how to navigate that emotion and first just take the stigma away and say, man, it's okay to get upset. I want to acknowledge that feeling. God gets angry.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't say anger is not a bad thing. God gets angry.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
So it's just like, but what, you know, what do we do and how do we handle that? And a lot of times just knowing that it's okay to get angry. And then going one layer below that. I use an example and say anger is your tree, but everything else is the roots. So what are those roots? What are you really feeling? And a lot of times they'll say, well, I was hurt. Or I was sad, or I felt like nobody was listening, or and so when you start kind of peeling the layers of the onion, as they say, it's okay. Well, let's talk about that. What made you feel that? And so I would say the biggest thing is just listen, listen to understand and not respond. You know, so when I get people in my class or when I'm talking to young people, man, I'm upset. I get it, man. I've been upset too. And so good, just acknowledging, validating those feelings is the most important thing. You know, not trying to say, don't get mad about that. You know, don't. We talking athletes, kids upset, crying after a game. It's just a game. Why are you upset?
Right,
man. It means something to them.
Sure.
You know, let them embrace that, man.
Yeah.
So
definitely. That's good. And I appreciate you sharing that. And Man, I just also want to almost in every episode, I feel the need to just make sure that folks know that if there's anyone that's watching that has felt anger about their lack of access and support, even in the sports space, perhaps as a person of faith or a member of the Adventist community, I'm hopeful and prayerful for healing for those individuals, right? To know that there may be reasons for legitimate frustration, and God is still in it and with you, right? And so we don't work for the organization, denomination, but I do think there are spaces and times where there's a need for even apologies from our organization to say, hey, look, like we could have done a better job in this space. We haven't done a good job of stewarding your giftedness, and we're going to do better. And I hope that an administrator who watches this, other leaders who watch this, pastoral colleagues who watch this, that we're thoughtful about how do we nurture the hearts of those, of course, generations who may not have felt sufficiently supported in this space. So, man, thank you for your witness, for your presence, for the work that you're doing. What's the title of your book, and then where can folks find you?
The Courage to Cry. So it'll be releasing it Monday, this coming Monday, for my Monday.
Congratulations.
Actually.
Hey, congratulations.
I can be found on Facebook, Adrian Hargrove. Instagram is Adrian_Hargrove. And that's really where I'm at.
All good. I love it,
man. And I gotta acknowledge you, man, and thank you for starting these conversations, for writing those articles, because this is exactly what's needed. Yeah. Someone to be bold enough to step out and say, you know what, I'm going to say something about this. And not just sit back on the sidelines and say somebody should do something. So you're like that athletic director, that administrator, that voice in the locker room, that glue guy that's bringing it all together, man. So, man, shout out to
Grateful.
you.
Praise God, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate all those who have been a part of the journey across multiple generations. You mentioned what the Adventist Hoops folks are doing, and different, I think about, various pastoral leaders and colleagues and folks who have done it in different ways. Pastor Duggett, back in the day at Madison, Michigan, right? Myron and I talk about, I mean, there's so many different folks in different ways. And I want to be clear, there are Adventists who are doing good work and have done good work in the sports space. I think this is a time when we can be intentional about saying, Lord, what are you saying, and how do you want to use us and move in this space now? And man, we're so grateful to have had Dr. Adrian Hargrove. We're going to say it's coming, it's on the way. Man, I want to say again, happy birthday to you. We celebrate you. Congratulations on the release of your new book. And thank you for your journey of faith and sport. It's, even just your willingness to share about, the imposter syndrome that or the challenge that you felt transitioning from a smaller space to what was a larger space in HBCU. And imagine that, right? Because I mean, Alabama A&M is far smaller than many of the other universities that are out there. So again, when we think about curriculum, like how do we best prepare our young people to move from space to space to space, even at scale? And so all of that is food for thought. All of our conversations tonight has been a blessing to me. I pray it's a blessing to you as you continue to journey with us. You know how to find me. Our team will drop that information in the chat as well. Dr. Ty Douglas in all the different spaces. But more than anything, also read the article. Check out the Spectrum series. Go back and watch some of these other conversations. And also be intentional about asking God, what are you saying? What are the gifts that you place in my hand? If you have an athletic young person, you got a youth team, you got young people in your church or your school who are gifted. How do we create the infrastructure so they don't have to choose between God and their gift? And how to be intentional with saying, Daddy, I'm open to whatever you want to do. Use us so that our young people can be in the spaces that will allow them to use what you've given them and to be a blessing to others. I hope that today's conversation has been a blessing to you, where you've had a chance to consider and see another side of genius, because athletes are scholars, but also gotten a glimpse of another side of Jesus. Be encouraged. I'll see you next time. I know you've been searching. You should know you worthy. What you been doing?